It is 4 o'clock. I'll go ahead and call the April 16th, 2012 Salina City Commission meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Angel.
Here.
Commissioner Crawford. Here. Commissioner Householder.
Here.
Commissioner Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Shirley.
Here.
Stand if you can and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item we have is the Citizens Forum. If there's anyone here from the public wanting to speak on any issue not on today's agenda, come on up to the podium. Give us your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor William Salmon, 744 South 10th, Salina, Kansas. And I want to address the council about how proud I am of the fact that you have, and the style in which that you have dealt with the issue of Chapter 13 of protecting the LGBT community, and which that has been done in a very good style and very thoughtful style. I want to also commend the commission that has heard so much public commentary. It was done in a very fine style as well. I do know that you are not here to adjudicate morality, but that you do make decisions based on what is right according to the law and according to what is right. The issue before us in terms of putting these people on and protecting their rights is not a moral issue. It is a justice issue. And so I leave that with you, a concern for you, and that we are lifting you up in much strength and concern as we go into the future. Thank you very much for what you've done and the style in which it has been done.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor and city commissioners and the city manager. I'd just like to congratulate on for Chapter 13 for GLBT people, and especially for Aaron Householder, City Commission Aaron Householder, for pushing the agenda forward and in such a tasteful manner. And I just wanted to take this opportunity. That is, there are people out there who are gays and lesbian, and don't be afraid of who you are, and don't commit suicide. Don't let people get the best of you. Just be yourself. And I thank you so much.
Tracy, will you give us your name and address for those at home that
Tracy
don't know you?
Sin, 229 South 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment today? Seeing none, we'll move on to awards and proclamations.
Item 4.1, the week of April 16th through the 21st, 2012, as National Volunteer in the City of Salina. Clay Thompson, Coordinator, Advisory Council Member of Serving Salina Together, the Volunteer Connection, will read the proclamation.
Mr. Thompson, come on up.
Proclamation of the City of Salina, Kansas. Whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot meet all of our city's social and environmental needs, and whereas volunteers, both individually and in groups of all ages and sizes, can take action that creates positive change in our community, and whereas the giving of oneself in service empowers both the giver and the recipient, and whereas hundreds of volunteers connect with service opportunities in dozens of areas, community service agencies, governmental offices, education and health care facilities each year through the Volunteer Connection. And whereas volunteers are vital to our future as a caring and productive community, and whereas this week has been set aside nationally to recognize volunteers for their commitment to service and to celebrate their contributions. And whereas our city's volunteer force of untold thousands is a great treasure. Now, therefore, I, Samantha Angel, Mayor, hereby proclaim April 16th through the 21st, 2012, as National Volunteer Week in Salina, Kansas, and urge my fellow citizens to honor those who contribute their time and talents to better our community, to celebrate the many accomplishments that have resulted from their actions, and to join in reaping the rewards of service and to others through the volunteering. Signed this 16th day of April, 2012, Samantha Angel, Mayor.
What do you have planned to commemorate the week?
A lot of things. I don't know if you've seen the posters that are around, but 2012 Earth Day posters. The CARE Foundation is joining with us this year on the whole week. And Saturday we have our cleanup day, which is from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock in the morning. And we're doing Santa Fe, west of Santa Fe, all the way down to Republic. And we'll have volunteers from all the different churches and organizations that participate in that. And by the way, the Covenant Youth Group have handed out or are handing out posters to each of the homes in that area so that they will be taking their belongings that they want to get rid of and put them out by the curb. And we'll start at the Friendship Center at 8 o'clock that morning, get back there around 12 for a celebration luncheon. And then from there, most of us will then go over to the Earth Day Salina Green Fair, which is at Lakewood Park. And that'll go on until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. During that day, too, the CARE group will be having a run and walk day from 8 to 9:30 at Lakewood. And then on Sunday, they'll be having a practical backyard tour of Salina Gardens. So a lot of things will be going on that everyone can participate in.
A few volunteer opportunities.
Very much so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
I have
you.
your sign proclamation here. Moving on to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time.
Item 5.1, public hearing and report on petition number 4344, requesting the vacation of portions of platted utility easements in Lot 1, Block 3 in the Twin Oaks 2 subdivision.
I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. This petition was filed by Brandon and Jennifer Gray, who own the property at 806 Post Oak Lane, and they are part of the Twin Oaks 2 subdivision, which dates back to 1980. And at the time of that platting, there were public utility easements provided for above and underground utilities on the plat, and there are public and franchise utilities throughout the subdivision in rear and side yards. The petitioner's home is a 2,100 square foot ranch home, has a 2-car attached garage, sits on a lot that looks like that, and they are interested in constructing a detached garage in the southwest corner of their lot. When they met with city staff, they were informed that it would not be allowable for them to place any part of their outbuilding within the platted utility easements. So the normal rule of thumb is you can put a garage or shed within 3 feet or 5 feet of a lot line, but if there's an easement present with utilities, then you must keep the building out of the public utility easement. And of course, the purpose of that is to protect the ability to get at the utilities to make repairs. They were of the belief that there wasn't anything occupying the easement, particularly the easement in the side yard right here, and filed this petition with the city clerk's office. And all utility providers were contacted about this vacation request, and everyone that responded indicated that they had utilities out there and within those easements, including the city's sanitary sewer system, which is in the rear area back here. So all of the franchise and public utility providers objected to vacating any portion of the easement. And the way this is generally set up, there's a 10-foot easement on this side of the line, 10 foot on that side, 10 foot here, and generally 10 foot on the other side. In this case, it's even more critical because there's only 7 feet on the Mike Drive side, and there's a need for 20 feet for vehicle access and equipment. So the Grays would still be able to construct a garage in their rear yard. They just wouldn't be able to have it as close to their property lines as they would like, and because of the objections made by the affected utilities, we would recommend that the petition be denied. And Ms. Tasker would be available to elaborate on the importance of those utilities for their access and maintenance. But I'd be open to any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we deny petition number 4344 filed by Brandon and Jennifer Gray.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the commission deny petition 4344 filed by Brandon and Jennifer Gray. All in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5.2, public hearing and report on petition number 4340, requesting the vacation of a portion of West Grand Avenue right-of-way that abuts the north line of Lot 2, Block 3 in the North Park Addition.
Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a somewhat similar request, but in a completely different area of the community. This is the North Broadway corridor from North Street up to Pacific. And in 2007, as you may be familiar, there was a boulevard improvement project, and part of that was a reduction of travel lanes from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And because it was funded with safety enhancement funds, there were a number of streets and driveways that got realigned, so they intersected with Broadway at 90 degrees instead of their previous alignment. And the result of that realignment is that you have a number of triangles up and down that corridor that appear to be surplus or unused because they were formerly occupied by street. So Grand Avenue used to come down and intersect at this angle, and 13th used to come up and intersect at that angle. Both of those were removed, and a new street connection there that lined up at 90 degrees with Broadway was put in its place. The petitioner, Mr. Miniman, viewed that as surplus property that he is petitioning to gain back to add to his property. We're not absolutely certain, but it's our understanding that the request was so that it could be vacated and to create space for construction of an additional outbuilding. But similar to the previous request, we contacted all the utility providers about this request. And although you see, if you could go back to the aerial, John. Although the street was realigned, I need the one with the utilities, John. These are utilities that are going through in the same alignment that Grand used to follow. So there's 2 concerns here. One is that the vacation request area is occupied by utilities. Even if you vacated it as city ownership and you retained a utility easement, you wouldn't be able to build over the top of it. The other concern that we wanted to bring to your attention is at the project's conclusion, staff identified about a dozen of these triangular-shaped islands along that corridor, and as right-of-way is not easily obtained, it shouldn't be easily given away. So we wanted to bring up to your attention that at the conclusion of that project, there was some thought about a collaborative project that would use these different areas at the intersections as a possible planting area for streetscape enhancements in this corridor. And so if we were to vacate and give one away because it was identified as unneeded and surplus, that would kind of set a precedent for the other ones up and down the corridor. And it's not to pin anyone down to that type of streetscape project, but we just wanted to point out that this is not a one-of-a-kind situation. This occurs everywhere that intersections were realigned between North and Pacific. So the primary objection is from the utility providers who would like to retain it as right-of-way. If you are receptive to, say, a partial vacation, we'd have to go back and do additional work, which would involve surveying and figuring out what area is not affected by utilities. But it has potentially a dual purpose, and that is for utility corridors, but also as a potential site for streetscape enhancements. So again, unfortunately, our recommendation is that this petition be denied at this time.
Any questions for staff?
I just have a comment. I think I remember when Sean O'Leary was still on staff, this portion of that area we talked about at that time putting some really nice landscaping in. And every time I go down there, I look for that landscaping. So I'm going to make a motion that we deny petition 4340.
Second. Was there any public comment on this before we move on? Thank you. Seeing none, there's a motion on the table and a second to deny petition 4340. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Close the public hearing and move on to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of April 9, 2012. Item 6.2, authorize a construction observation services agreement with Schwab Eaton for the water tower maintenance in the amount not to exceed $59,150. Item 6.3, resolution number 126898, authorize addendum number 1 to the license agreement with Salina Area Chamber of Commerce for placement and display of original sculptures within the public right-of-way.
Does any commissioner want to take any of these items off the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We don't have any development business, so we're on to administration.
Item 8.1, first reading ordinance number 10,635, amending Chapter 41, Article 2, Division 1, Sections 4128 and 4129 of the Salina Code pertaining to water taps and charges and maintenance of service lines.
Ms. Tasker, it's been so long. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. As you may remember, in late February, we had a study session on multi-unit rental water meters. That discussion pertained to multi-unit rentals with a single service line and multiple meters inside. It was determined that additional water service lines for these type of multi-unit buildings are necessary, and these additional water service lines are proposed to be paid for by installed by a contractor and paid for by the city. And this will allow each unit within that building to continue to be metered separately. The proposed code amendments will clarify both the city and the water customer's responsibility for maintenance of the water service lines. Subsection 4128E and Section 4129 will be repealed. Section 4129 will be amended to clarify the maintenance of service lines. The city's responsibility and the water consumer responsibility are described separately. The notable change is under the water consumer responsibility, where it notes including any such water service line paid for by the city, which is a result of those multiple unit water service lines. The remainder of the code is virtually as we administer it today, so there's no significant change other than that wording. Also, there is no physical impact to the city due to the proposed amendment. the staff has identified 3 options for the City Commission. Adopt ordinance number 12-10635 as drafted. Second option would to be amend provisions of the ordinance number 12-10635 as the City Commission finds appropriate. Third option would deny approval of ordinance 10 or number 12-10635. Staff recommends option 1. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I move we approve ordinance number 12-1635 on first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 12-10635 on first reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, resolution number 126897, authorizing an economic development grant agreement with Exide Technologies.
Mr. Gage.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Exide has been manufacturing automotive batteries in Salina since about 1987. They currently have over 600 employees and have been a pretty stable employer for the city. They are proposing to add between 100 and 130 new primary manufacturing jobs over the next 30 months. In addition, they plan to add approximately $10 million in capital equipment. When we look at the wages of their jobs, the average annual wage, not including bonus pay, would be a little over $39,000 per year, or roughly $18.82 per hour, which are pretty strong. That's pretty good wages for our local industrial jobs. Depending on if they get to 100 or 130, the annual impact could be just over 3.9 million per year in wages, or just over 5 million in wages. So there's a pretty good overall impact to our community. They're requesting a Salina Economic Development Incentives Council incentive grant from the special sales tax of $3,000 per job, which would be a maximum of $390,000, assuming 130 new jobs over that 30-year period. Those jobs hired at early stages with regards to this would have to be retained in order to qualify for future disbursements in that time. So they couldn't hire and then lay off those jobs and then later ask for a second disbursement. It wouldn't work quite that way. We've looked at this pretty closely and applied the Wichita State University model that we use for benefit cost analysis. And the benefit, it's definitely on the benefit side of 2.05, and anything over a 1 is considered a positive, and we typically like to have something of a 1 or higher. So 2.05 is very, very strong benefit. And what that does is it doesn't necessarily take into consideration the direct community benefit. It really kind of basically looks at what comes back to the local government agencies in the time frame with regards to tax dollars and the impacts of this. So it's somewhat of a conservative approach. There has been a news conference about the actual hiring of the jobs, not necessarily the incentive request. From a fiscal perspective, this would come, as I mentioned, out of the special sales tax. The current balance of that sales tax is just shy of $380,000, but this is paid for over a 30-month period. That tax generates about $320,000 per year. And I would say that as we start to see some positive things happen, and I think we will see some more, we may have to look at that tax, and we may have which would be a good problem of it not having enough for us to respond to opportunities. So we'll pay close attention to that for you. With regards to the comprehensive plan, certainly this will help create a community of quality mixed-use development and redevelopment, and anytime we can add solid jobs in our community, that's a positive thing. We've given you 3 options to approve the attached resolution, authorizing an economic development grant agreement with Exide Technologies, which provides for financial incentive in an amount not to exceed $390,000 over a 30-month period to stimulate job growth and fund capital equipment, to approve the resolution with any modifications you might have, or not to approve it at this time. As we typically do, we ran this request through your SEDIC committee for recommendation, and they looked at it pretty closely and recommended approval. And they believe, and so does staff, the staff team that looks at this, that it clearly meets the intent of the resolution, number 12-6897, which enables the use of these funds for this purpose. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I believe we may have others. I did see our Chamber President, CEO in the audience as well.
Sitting in the back row.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate that this special sales tax is designated specifically for economic development.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a portion of the total tax. There's I call it a somewhat small portion, relatively speaking, as a percentage that is dedicated specifically to help us leverage these types of jobs in our community.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it to the commission for action.
Mayor, I'd move that we adopt resolution number 12-6897.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the commission adopt resolution 12-6897. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.3, request to set the meeting date to formally consider the request amendments to Chapter 13 of the Salina Code from the North Central Chapter of the Kansas Equality Coalition to include the protected class of sexual orientation and gender identity.
Ms. McDonald, sorry. You haven't been here for a while either.
Try to stay awake.
Come on.
Aw, hurt our feelings.
Go ahead.
Much rather make martinis than do this. As you know, the request came from the North Central Kansas chapter of the Kansas Equality Coalition to include protected classes of sexual orientation and gender identity under Chapter 13 of our city code. We brought this request to you, and you directed us to hold public hearings, which we did. We went back and we've been reviewing the ordinance and reviewing the possible implications of the ordinance, answering questions that have been brought up through the public. We devised some questions that we thought employers or public accommodations may ask, and we've worked on those with our attorneys and are pretty close to a response to that. You also asked that we bring the matter before the Human Relations Commission, which we did. The Human Relations Commission voted in favor of supporting the ordinance, and we're back now to look at the 90-day period that you gave us to decide on bringing it back to the commission. 90 days, as you know, is May 7th, and we know that Commissioner Shirley will be gone that day. So we'd like to provide the following alternatives that have been identified for the City Commission. Number one, by motion, request that the proposed ordinance from the North Central Equality Coalition be added to the Commission agenda for May 14th, 2012. And second option would be take no action at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this?
My name is Tracy Sin, and I'm 229 South 2nd. I would like to take this opportunity to tell the businesses out there that if they are anti this ordinance, we would hope that we would boycott those businesses that are not supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Mayor, if I may, I want to have a quick question for Ms. McDonald. Gina, did we, I just want to make sure I asked, did we lock down the location?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go ahead and hit that while we have the opportunity
sure.
as well.
Yes, we contacted Michael Spicer at the community theater, and he offered the theater for our use again. I told him we'd be there about 3:30 and asked about, all the logistics, so he agreed to that again. We appreciate Mr. Spicer offering that venue for us.
So we'd have our entire meeting at the community theater on May 14th.
Yeah, May
if this is
14th,
approved.
the traditional time of 4 o'clock at the community theater. Traditionally, if you anticipate you could have a larger crowd than what you can hold from an open meetings perspective, you want to try to accommodate that. So we felt that would be an ideal situation for us.
Thanks. Any other public comment?
Larry Bunker, 821 Highland Avenue, here, Salina. I just had, a question. I know the Human Relations had voted everybody but one, and their biggest concern was concern that the companies that did business with Salina would be have problems with it, and I was just wanting to see what the outcome was of those calls and stuff.
I don't know what calls you're
They were
referring to.
researching to see if the companies that did business with Salina would have to change their ordinance also.
Like
or
contractors
follow
with the
their-
city?
Yes, contractors. I was just wanting to see.
That been
where-
looked into already?
Yeah, we're looking into it. I think there's some final refinements we need to look at because there's some aspects of that, and I'll just throw one at you that you can think about. For example, if you have a worldwide or a nationwide business, does the nationwide or worldwide business have to change their policy across the board, across the country, or just for this location? That's the type of a question that we have to ask ourselves that we're kind of finishing up on.
How did that work with Douglas County?
What's that?
How did that work with Douglas County when they passed their ordinance?
I don't know. I'm not.
didn't know if
Are
anyone
you talking the
talked-
city of Lawrence or actually
Right, right,
Douglas County?
right.
I'm not sure because I don't know if Lawrence actually had the. This is dealing with just the purchasing provision. I don't know that they had that. They may have. I'm not sure. But yeah, this just is only dealing with that purchasing provision we have in our ordinance.
That'll be part of the questions and answers that are eventually published.
Yeah, and there's there's also a question as to on any aspect whether you can carve something out or not carve something out, and that certainly is an issue with this part of the ordinance that we were looking at as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Give us your name and address, please. Not that everyone doesn't know who you are, Gary.
Gary Schwarzenegger, 528 South College. Just as a point of information, I imagine you all are aware that if the question had not been asked at the forum for state legislators last month, I think most Salina citizens would not have been aware that there is a bill, House Bill 2260. It's now merged into an anti-abortion bill, Senate 146, preempting any effort on behalf of local governments. It would nullify the 1995 action that the city of Lawrence took, and it would preemptively strike that any local entities anywhere in the state of Kansas, you might as well not waste your breath. Do you all have an update that some of the rest of us might not have, just as a point of information? How would what you do, or why even set up a first reading or a first effort, May 5th, is that correct?
May 14th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Is there anything the general public should be aware of just in terms of information? In other words, if the state makes a decision, yay or nay, will that affect what you all do? A lot, little, or in between?
I think it's what you just said.
Yeah. Well, the Senate session will be
correct?
over by May 14th, and they'll have a decision by then.
Actually, they'll decide April 25th.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, so we should know, and then it's a matter
It's
of.
a state law. There's really not much I don't think we could do about it.
Well, we'd look at it. I mean, like anything else, you want to take a look at it legally. But,
Right.
I mean, on face value, it seems to preempt any of that type of action. But you look at it, and then you talk about it, and you go from there. Sure.
Now, I would, and my humble recommendation would be,
Very
by the way, the House Bill 2260 is titled Kansas Freedom of Religious Act. Now, to me, that is a preemptive strike. I would simply state that in my humble opinion, discrimination or bigotry bathed in prayer or bathed in religion is still discrimination or bigotry. To me, that's despicable and deplorable. I would encourage y'all to somehow, before the state makes their decision, to at least make a resolution suggesting you're 100% opposed to local control, since that is sort of the antithesis of what Republicanism stands for. Like, they want local control except for when they don't. And this is, in my opinion, would be a perfect time somewhere along the line before the state makes their decision to go on record suggesting that you're not in favor of what they're doing, taking away local control from y'all. And then in terms of a quick, fun one-upsmanship, the county commissioners last week went on record suggesting that they were diametrically opposed to Medicaid being transformed into CanCare, in essence privatizing health care delivery for emotionally and physically disabled people to the tune of enhancing the profits of 3 insurance companies, $900 million, which is approaching $1 billion. So I would think you all don't want the county commissioners to one-up you. I'd encourage you to go somehow on record making a resolution that you're diametrically opposed to what the state's doing in effect to this LGBT thing being added to protected classes.
Thank you, Gary.
Just as an FYI, commissioners, it's common. There's a bill from the state that likes to preempt local control. And so we, as your staff representing you as a local governing unit, consistently and annually try to remind them that we'd like to be able to retain local control on any and all issues.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware of
Isn't
that.
that what home rule is all about?
Well, it's supposed to be, but I mean, technically, if something's non-uniform, that's when you can utilize home rule. But if there's something that's applied uniformly, then that would supersede your home rule authority.
Thank you.
But we try to practically keep things in home rule whenever we can.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move that we request the proposed ordinance from the North Central Kansas Equality Coalition be added to the City Commission agenda for May 14th, 2012.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the proposed ordinance from the North Central Kansas Equality Coalition be added to the May 14th City Commission agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
Item 8.4, first reading ordinance number 1010636, amending Chapter 42, Article 11, Section 42-552 of the Salina Code pertaining to off-street parking.
Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, for adding this to your regular agenda. There was a first amendment of the Salina Code in 1988. That was the first time that it was actually specified that commercial parking lots had to be paved. And in 1990, there was an amendment adopted by the City Commission that essentially grandfathered in existing gravel lots that existed on that date. In 2006, the City Commission considered a text amendment which amended the very first sentence of Section 42-552E2, and in the codification and republication of that 2006 amendment, the language that deals with the carving out or the grandfathering of existing gravel parking lots was inadvertently dropped out of that paragraph. And being that it's absent, it needs to be reinserted, and we are requesting your consideration to reinsert it on first reading because it's a technical oversight and a matter of importance. Declare an emergency to allow the corrected ordinance to be approved today on second reading the same day and approve the ordinance on second reading.
So 3 separate actions, 3 separate motions.
I'll defer to Mr. Bankston, but I believe that would be 3 separate actions.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
Commissioners, just a quick note on this. I think we need to approve this because it resets the code the way it was supposed to be at the time and eliminates confusion that we have today. But I would also like to get your permission for us to look at it because I think in practice it moves the pendulum a little bit too far on preserving gravel parking lots in most situations, not all, but most situations in which if there's if you take a site in essence and you demolish everything on the site and redevelop it, typically you find that zoning codes would require that a new development would have to have then paved parking. This one doesn't always require that, so it's a little bit odd there. But like I said, I think that we need to reset it today, get it the way it was, and then spend the time with staff, planning commission, and bring back to you some at least thoughts of what it should be in the long-term future. And I don't need a motion for that. I just want to make sure you're okay with us spending a little time on it.
Yes? Did you get consensus there?
Yeah.
I can see everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve on first reading ordinance number 12-10636 to reinsert the unpaved parking area sentence into paragraph 1, section 42-55-2E2 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 12-10636 on first reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, at this time, I need to make a declaration of that emergency exists for a second reading on the same day of ordinance just voted on.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we declare an emergency exists so that we can proceed to a second reading of 12-10636. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve on second reading ordinance number 12-10636.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 12-10636 on second reading. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Crawford,
Aye.
Commissioner Householder,
Aye.
Commissioner Jennings,
Aye.
Commissioner Shirley,
Aye.
Mayor Angel.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. We're on to other business.
Comments from Mayor Angel at our end of her mayoral term.
Thank you. Been waiting for that for 45 minutes. Okay, so now is normally the time where the mayor finishing their term goes back and kind of recaps everything that happened the year before. And I don't really want to do that, and I know you guys really don't want to sit through that. And since so rarely do our views completely align like this, I'm going to take pity on all of you and just skip that part. So really all I want to do is just thank some people. It's a long list of people, I'm not kidding you. First, I just want to say thank you to my family, to Jim, the boys. Lucy, quit taking pictures.
I think she's videotaping.
And my folks, because, and really not for this year, just this year, but the prior 3 years and next year, for helping me juggle work and kids and family and transportation and school and helping me keep all those balls up in the air. And on occasion for catching one of those balls when it's about ready to crack me in the head, because there have been a few times where I've dropped the ball. Thank you to my law partner, Connie. You really very rarely complained about me being gone on numerous occasions. And actually, Connie didn't complain at all. And to the two best legal secretaries in town, Sue Fuller and Sandy Norris, thank you for backing me up all year. To all the executive staff, I know I'm forgetting people. I'm just going to apologize now. I'm just going to say to all the executive staff for all your time and efforts. And I wish people could see really how much you care about Salina and how dedicated you are to your jobs, because it really shines through when you're sitting up in these chairs. To all of our agency partners, our counterparts over at the county, Dennis, to all you and your board over at the Chamber, to the Airport Authority, the Board of Education, K-State. It's been really amazing getting to see how all these cogs work together and how really the relationships are really strong. And a lot of things that happen wouldn't happen with all those partner agencies. So thanks for letting me see how everything works. To the three amigos, Jason, Mike, and Greg, thank you for always answering the door when I knocked and responding to emails and texts and phone calls over and over again. I really appreciate it, for all your guidance and help. To Holly and Luann, thank you for making sure we stay on track and make sure it looks like we know what we're doing up here. We couldn't do it without you guys either. And then finally to my cohort, Norm, I appreciate all the commissioners I've served with. It's really been a pleasure, but Norm and I were elected together, so thank you for being a sounding board and being a rock for me and serving all 4 years with me. That's it.
You're not going to cry,
That was
right?
short.
Okay.
What?
You better not cry.
I'm not crying. I'm happy. Thank you. It's your turn.
We will now call the organizational meeting to order, and I'll start by calling roll. Commissioner Angel?
Here.
Commissioner Crawford?
Here.
Commissioner Householder?
Here.
Commissioner Jennings?
Here.
Commissioner Shirley?
Here.
I will now accept nominations for mayor and chair of the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, may I make a motion to nominate Norm Jennings as the mayor?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And now accept nominations for acting mayor and vice chair of the Board of Commissioners.
At this time, I would move Barb Shirley.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Mayor Jennings will now present Samantha Angel with the plaque of appreciation and her gavel for her term as mayor.
It's so quiet.
Need a drum roll.
We're going to go down here. I think it'd be so fun to just roast her for a while. Samantha, it's been a privilege to serve on the commission alongside of you. You have led Salina with honor over the course of the last year. Few people really know the difficulties that go with being commissioner, and you just done a wonderful job of upholding the honor of the city and the position in all your actions and in what you've done. So I would like to thank you on behalf of myself, the commission, and the city of Salina for your tremendous service over the course of the last year.
We will now have comments from our newly elected Mayor Jennings.
Well, as vice mayor, it's kind of been my privilege to watch Samantha and learn. So to put everybody at ease, I just watched what she did and will be equally as short. I can tell you that I've lived in a number of different communities before returning home to Salina. And it did not take very long to realize what it was that I'd so greatly missed in Salina. I can reassure the citizens that this community burns deep into my heart, and it is with that I will attempt to serve to the best of my abilities in an honorable fashion, and I look forward to it. I thank my family, my wife Jen, and my two daughters Olivia and Kately, my son Reese, for the tremendous support that they are in my life, and for being here today to celebrate this. And I thank all my friends that are here and those that are watching because they can't be here. Each and every one of you mean so much in my life. You know, with the city staff that we have, executive, right on down, it makes this transition comforting to know that we have the Army that we have behind us for the city, the people that tirelessly do the work. I still won't forget the day that I drove down Iron Street and there was a water main leak or something. And it was raining so hard, water was going into the hole where these guys were trying to repair the water main. It was going in faster than what it was flying out of the broken water main. And that's just a picture that so few really get to see of the people that are behind the scenes running everything. So I have the honor just to preside over some meetings and honor them as they're carrying out the work of Salina each and every day. So I would like them to know that that we greatly respect the work that we do. And it's been a pleasure serving alongside Samantha for 3 years and the current commissioners for the last year. It's no secret that we're in the middle of an issue that many communities have dealt with, or some, and it's been a very divisive and destructive issue. And I think our citizens, as well as fellow commissioners and all involved, as we heard comments earlier today, are handling the issue very well, and that shows Salina. Samantha and I got to come right on board at the time of the clean air work, which was one that had just an equal amount of personal input and emotion behind it. So I look forward to the next year. I wish it was under really bolsterous economic times and we were doing some tremendously wonderful and obvious things together, but we will work to maintain what the citizens have trusted us with, and we look forward to the year ahead of us. So thank you to each and every person that's here and that will be in support of us over the course of the next year. Thank you. Guess that's time where we request a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a nice evening. Thank you.